Hello everyone, I'm Melanie from Decube. We've built our platform to be a unified solution for your modern data stack where you have data observability, discovery, and governance all in one place. Through our data quality module, you will have the ability to configure a range of tests across your data sources, which will monitor your data assets. That could be your tables, columns, and your transformation jobs. And you'll be able to trigger notifications directly to your inbox so you don't miss a potential breakdown. We have a catalog module, which is basically a great repository for all your data assets. When you connect your data tools, we load your Decube workspace with all the assets like your tables and columns to those tables, jobs, automatically to the catalog so you can have one place where you can manage all your data assets. I'll also show you how you can use this catalog to leverage on a feature we call the Business Glossary, so your business teams can take part in enabling data governance across your organization. Data governance has become an essential part of the modern business, and this is why we've also come up with a module to make it easier than ever for teams to get started with data governance and to scale their programs as their needs grow. This is where you can store and manage all your governance policies in one place, create custom classifications for data, and automate your data governance processes. We'll also take a look at the data Recon module, where you can perform a reconciliation to compare discrepancies between two separate data sets. Now I'm just going to show you what you'll need to get connected when you first sign up, and take you through how to configure your monitoring and set up your alerts. You can head over to My Account over here. Under Connect a New Data Source, you can see that there's all our available connections at the moment, and few that we're working on real soon in our roadmap. Let's go ahead and see how you can add a connection to your Google BigQuery. There's going to be a few prerequisites that you need to set up on your data source end. For more details on the permissions and how to set up for each data source, you can click on How to Connect. For example, for BigQuery, you will need to create a service account. If your data source is not publicly accessible, you may need to enable access to your VPC through either whitelisting your IPs or using an SSH tunnel. And we've provided the steps for that as well. So once you've connected successfully to a data source, you'll be brought to the dashboard. So our dashboard will be a little bit empty at first when you first connect into Decube, and that's fine because you will need to set up your monitors first so that our data observability engine can learn about your data and raise the first incident. So what you'll need to do first is to configure your data source to start monitoring. You can navigate to the config, which is where you can set up all your monitoring in one place. When you first enter the config module, you reach the landing page where you'll be able to see all the test types that we've included onto our platform. I'll just give a quick breakdown on each test right here. The freshness monitor tracks the time since the table was last inserted or updated. Our model learns how frequently your table is updated and raises an alert if it has been too long. Next is the volume test. The test for volume tracks the row count that was inserted into a table. Our model will define a threshold of the expected count of rows inserted based on previous scans. And if it detects an insert that was below or exceeds the threshold, an incident will be raised. Field health tests are basically tests you can set on your columns. We have pre-built tests available out of the box, such as the null check, the average, string length, or email checks. We have the schema drift test. This is enabled automatically for all tables when you connect a data source. It detects any schema changes, including table or column addition, deletion, or changing data types. These changes may cause compatibility issues with the database and applications that use these tables. If the pre-built tests are not sufficient enough, you also have the option of adding a monitor by writing a test via SQL. We also have the option of adding a group by test, which you can select a column in your table, which will define the segments where you can apply the logical groupings and then apply the test types onto it, such as the volume test. This is helpful if you want to monitor a particular segment of your table instead of adding the test on the entire table. The last test we have here is job failure. So let's say if you want to add a connection with a transformation tool like DBT or Fivetran, if there's a failure, it'll trigger an alert called job failure. Before I go into how to set up a monitor, let me show you the All Monitors page where you can see the entire list of active monitors in your workspace. This is a good place to quickly filter the active monitors based on their statuses, the types of tests being run, and their data source. This can help you to identify any monitors that are failing or need attention. You can also enable or disable monitors from here, or quickly modify the setting on each monitor. Let me show you how to enable a volume monitor. Once you've selected your data source, from your metadata, it will populate all your tables. Go ahead and click on Setup Monitoring on the table you want to enable monitoring on. There's a few settings here that you will need to configure for each table. First, you will need to select the row creation time, which is a timestamp or a date column. You should select the row creation time based on which you use for running all the incremental updates or inserts within a table. So it's either created at for a frequently inserted table or updated at for a frequently updated table. This informs our scanner to check the right column for the frequency that you've selected and ensures that there is no additional load on your database or warehouse as the queries will be optimized. If you do not have a timestamp or a date column in your table, for example, if you store your timestamps as a string, you can also choose to convert the column into a timestamp format by selecting on the SQL expression selection here and input the function to cast it. You can also choose to scan the entire table by selecting all records. When you start a monitor, it usually takes about 3 to 5 days depending on the frequency of your table updates to generate the ML model for thresholding before the first incident is triggered. However, if you enable our smart training capability, you'll be able to reduce this training period significantly as the monitor is able to scan historical data on your table and generate the model for thresholds, and start triggering incidents early. Set the frequency here to inform us how often to run the scans. Now for each monitor that you set up in your data source, you can set different incident levels for each monitor. With levels such as info, warning, and critical, you get incidents in Decube and to your notifications with the appropriate incident level, so you can quickly judge the priority of attending to a specific incident. Here you'll be able to control the notification. We give you the control to choose which critical tables you want to be notified about, because it's possible that you want to monitor a table but not to be disturbed by hundreds of notifications. I'll now show you how to enable notifications for your organization so that you'll get notifications when incidents are triggered. Head back to the config landing page and see the config settings on the top right. This will lead you to the config settings in the My Account page where you can set up the default behavior for alerts and monitors. You can add an email here and also connect your Slack to your Decube workspace. So go ahead and authorize the connection to Slack and then input which Slack channels that you have created so that you can receive alerts on them. We also support webhooks, so you can integrate our alerts to a third-party application of your choice. From a day-to-day basis, teams get bombarded with alerts from different tools all the time, which interrupts the focus time one needs. So one of the significant changes to our alert system is the ability to send individual custom alerts to those who will need to receive it. You can do this by heading into any monitor like this and set up custom alerts here. You can add an email or add a Slack channel, and this will override the default settings that you have just created in the config settings itself. Now let's try to add a field health monitor. When we navigate into the field health monitor creation flow, we'll be able to select the data source again, but then you'll need to additionally select a table of where the columns you want to monitor. On the left, you'll see a list of test types we support, and this list of columns will be filtered according to the test type you've selected. Similar to the other tests, you can click on Setup Monitoring and it'll lead you to the setup flow. Instead of needing to add one test to one column at a time, we also support the bulk addition of one test type across multiple fields. This helps you to add coverage of our out-of-the-box tests such as null, duplicate, and cardinality tests and apply the same settings across multiple columns at a time. This saves you a significant amount of time, especially if you have a large number of columns to test. This works well with our enable machine learning feature, where instead of defining manual thresholds, you can use this to let our ML model calculate the thresholds based on your scan metrics. Next, let's add a group by monitor. Let's say you want to monitor a particular segment of a table without adding the monitor to the entire table. You'll be able to create a group by monitor instead. How you do that is you navigate into the group by setting, select a data source, and I go ahead and select a table. Now over here, you'll need to select a column which you want to use to define the segments of the table. Here you'll need to be careful as you can't use a column with too many unique values as a group by column. Once we've validated that this can be used, you can now select the group that you want to monitor and then head over to the next screen. After you're in the next screen, setting up a monitor is the same flow as the other monitoring type. Now let's talk about the schema drift checks. When you connect your data source, we're already turning on the monitoring for your schemas to ensure full coverage on any schema change type that may cause downstream failure. However, we've made it even better by allowing you to define which schema change type that you want to be alerted on, and also disable any schema that you would not need to be monitored. So you can set table addition of less importance by only defining it as info and not get alerted on it, while setting column deletions at warning for certain schemas. Let's check out the data quality page. Here's where you'll see all the incidents that were raised. For each incident, you'll be able to see the assigned criticality for each incident. I'm going to head over here into one of the incidents, and if you click on it, there'll be an incident detail that is shown. Here's a table that has a volume alert. Starting with the top, you'll see any additional information on the incident, a simplified description which includes the thresholds, the detected row count which triggered the alert, and when did the failure happen. We also show you a graph of the last 30 scans we did to show you a trend of the scans, and also mark where were the failure points. In the History tab, we list out all the metrics we picked up from the monitoring, so you can see all tests that had failed and caused the incident. We show you the timestamp of all the scans with their expected thresholds and the actual value obtained. Understanding the downstream impact of incidents is crucial, so we've included an impacted assets panel that shows you all the assets connected to an incident based on the downstream lineage of the affected asset that we've gathered from your connected data sources, which allows you to assess the broader ramifications of the incident. From here, you are also able to identify the owners of the affected tables and data jobs and dashboards directly. And what you can do is you can export this list as a CSV and send it directly to the owners to notify them of this potential issue. On the right side panel, we listed out who are the owners for this asset. That's who you've designated in the catalog. Of course, the incident management cycle is really important. You can assign this incident directly to one of the users in your organization, and we'll log it in the incident management history in the bottom. As the assignee, you can manage the status of your incidents, so you can choose to either close or mute your incidents. In the situation, if there's any sort of migration or any updates happening with your database level, you may choose to mute it for a day, a week, or a month. Now let's take a look at a field health incident. One of the most unique features we've worked on here is to provide a debug code for your engineers so that they can replicate it in their environment or their SQL editor. And this is great for engineers because they can exactly know where the problem is. They can also possibly refactor the code so this particular action will be taken care of. And once this is fixed, they can then close the incident. Now let's talk about data discovery. We've designed the catalog to be a great place for your business teams to navigate to. Searching for an asset shouldn't be too difficult with our semantic search engine. You don't really need to rely on the exact matching of your keywords for your tables or columns to find search results. We also support searching via SQL-like syntax if you prefer to search via a path search method like this. Filters on the left side of the page also allows you to narrow down your search results and find the precise information you require. We support filtering by asset types, schema, tags, classifications, and more so you can quickly traverse across your multiple data assets. One unique thing here we've done is also built in the incident alerts and data quality into the catalog so that you can also see any assets that may have an open incident that needs to be investigated. Let's have a look within a table asset type to see more details. Let's check the user table in our BigQuery. So on the details page, you'll be able to see some information on the table overview, which was collected by our profiler. You'll be able to see some statistics on your table from here, as well as the field statistics tab, where you can have quick glance on statistics such as min, max, distinct percentage and null percentage of your tables to get a picture of your data before you can use it for data analysis or modeling. The next tab I want to show you is the Schema tab. It's where you can add tags to fields like marketing or user info and add classifications like the GDPR, PII, or sensitive so that your team knows these columns need to be handled with extra care as they contain classified information. You can also add a description for each column. Looking at the Schema tab right here, you can notice that I've actually added the classification for GDPR, for address, and also for email. And how this will help is that when you go to the Preview tab, which takes a sample of the table right here, you can see that the name and email columns are being masked. How this is controlled is by our data governance module, where you can create a custom policy and select the masking type for each policy that you want to apply it on. From here, we'll move over to the Lineage tab so you can understand what is the upstream of this user table and also the downstream of this user table if there are any. So it'll be helpful information if you want to troubleshoot for any data incidents or you want to see what are the downstream assets that have been impacted by an incident. Another thing I'd like to show you in the catalog is our Glossary module. This allows your organization to have a collection of data-related terms described in a clear language that everyone can understand. What I mean here is that let's say you have a business metric that's commonly thrown around in conversation like sales growth rate. What does sales growth rate mean exactly? Usually these kind of KPIs or metrics live on something like a spreadsheet, but now you can have them all here. You can set up glossaries and categories according to what makes sense for your business, and that could be in the form of business lines or geographic locations. And within each category, you can set your terms, which are the business metrics you want to define. So an example right here that I've set it is according to the different departments in the company. So let's look at a term here that I've created called the engagement rate. Within this term, you can see that I've already assigned this to their respective owners, and their role is to make sure that the term is kept updated. I can also add a description to this term and add any additional documentation that really gives the context that the team will need to understand this metric. A cool thing that we've added here is the ability to link tables and columns from your data catalog to this metric. So imagine that if you're a business analyst and you want to extract data for this metric, you can check out which tables or columns contain the data that you're looking for. What we've done here is to make sure that if there's any incidents on these tables, we'll also show them here so that the user is aware about the issue on this table and take the additional precaution before using the data from here. Let me take you through the data governance module where you can store and manage all of your governance policies in one place, create custom classifications for data, and automate your data governance processes. We understand that it takes manpower, time, and resources to manually track where the source of data is and manually classify the data. So we've designed this module to be a centralized location where you can create, update, and deprecate policies in your organization and have it discoverable for the users who need it. We have some policies that are built in and come along with the module when you onboard on Decube, such as the PII and sensitive classifications, and you further can create custom policies for your organization. So let's look at an example of a governance policy. Within the policy details page, you can see that we've enabled organizations to declare the purpose of this policy and also assign ownership of the policy to a data steward in your organization. When you set up a policy or later edit a policy, we require the user to go through an approval workflow so it ensures integrity in the policy management, as all changes will need to be approved or rejected before it takes into effect. Reviewers in this case will receive an email notification where they will be led to a review process where they can either approve or reject it. From there, we also track when the policy was last updated, who updated the policy, and who approved the changes. If you look at the lower part of the page, you can set up policy rules. And these are enforcement rules that you can set up to reduce manual work of classifying each data set by using our auto-classification workflow. A rule that you can set up here is for sensitive content pattern. So let me show you how to use the auto-classification workflow. You can click on Add a new rule and then select any of the data sources that you want to apply the auto-classification rule on. head over and select either keyword matching or regex to match. Let's try the keyword name. Choose either to match strictly or approximately. You can also have this rule to run on any new assets that we detect through our crawling of your metadata, so we'll also auto-classify future assets that match the criteria. Run the rule. So we'll scan the data sources and display the assets which match the keyword. You can then review the list and edit it before applying the changes. You can also select what kind of masking type that which will be applied on your preview tab. I'll go ahead and select hash here. Of course, before this rule takes into effect and all the assets are tagged with this classification, you will need to go through an approval process and it needs to be reviewed by a reviewer. Once you've tagged several assets with this classification, with this example is the PII classification, you'll be able to see the entire list of assets which were tagged in this policy's Manage Assets list. From here, you'll be able to export the entire list as a CSV as well. Of course, classifications that are added to assets from either in the policy rules for data governance that I just showed you or in the catalog will show up across the platform. You can also use your newly created custom classification as filters in the catalog to quickly discover any classified assets. Last but not least, let's head over to the Data Recon module. We think that several businesses have chosen a strategy of delivering changes or updates to the staging table and then pushing this data to the production table after verification. Nevertheless, there is a potential that events are missed after you push the production table, in which case you should perform a diff or recon to look for any discrepancies. Some users may opt to compare discrepancies between two datasets for commercial or financial purposes. For example, checking for inconsistencies between the payment gateway table and the transaction. So go ahead and add a new recon and select a data source. You'll be able to select for a table right here. You can also choose to use separate data sources and compare the tables between two data sources. You have to select the primary keys here, and after that select the date time fields. From here, then you will need to input the duration that you want us to look back into. And then go ahead and map any additional fields to be compared. Over here, you'll be able to add a where condition as well to limit the rows that we scan. And go ahead and run the recon. I'm going to show you here a recon that has already been run over here. So we'll show you a summary of the matching rows and also show you in more detail which are the rows that have the data diffs. You'll be able to export this as a CSV over here. One tip I'd like to share over here is that our recon is actually amazingly fast. However, your keys will need to be indexed properly. And that's about it. If you need help or if you need to understand more about each feature, go ahead and go through our documentation here. We will bring you to all the features that are currently available in our platform and also understand how to connect each data source here.